So in this part of our Django tutorials, we're going to see how we can collect static files and put them inside the correct directory, and also how we can use the photos inside of our directory in order to create cards for each one of these members inside of our classmate. So for example, for Jane, we want to have all of this data inside of one CSS file alongside with one photo for Mariana Jane. So in order to do that, we first need to learn how to work with the static files in Django. The first thing we need to do is to head over to the code, and here inside of our settings.py we need to add a couple of lines in order to set the directory related to our static files. We can either create that automatically or manually, but automatically with the use of commands will be much more professional and much more suitable, because it will create the folders in the right directory where it will refer to that in order to collect the static files. So let me find the settings.py. There we go. And let's scroll down and find a static URL. And right here, let me paste a line here. This is for placing the directory related to our static files. So here it is in the base directory, the directory related to my class folder up here. So let me show that to you in order for better visibility. So it will be created right here once we run the command, and here I'm going to define where to refer to our static file and where is the static root. So it's in the basic directory, and I can call the folder static folder, right? So static folder, or I can write static folder this way. Okay, there we go. Let's save this. Now let's stop the server for now by pressing Ctrl+C, and now we can run Python 3 manage the py collect static. So now, as you can see, static file folder has been created right over here inside of the my class folder, and the folder is called static folder. So it should be right over here. Okay, it's right here. As you can see, it has places for CSS, fonts, images, and JS. So right here you can put a lot of different images. It also has some built-in images with the SVG format. So let us look at some of them. Oh, they're just codes, but there's some built-in photos. But you can put your photos right over here inside of the static files admin, or just static files, right? So for our cards here inside of the page related to, okay, we don't have the server up and running right now, so inside the page related to each one of the members of the class, we want to add a photo, right? So I'm going to find a kind of avatar for each one of these people, and the avatar is some kind of cartoon avatar. Doesn't really matter what we want to put there, but what matters is that we will be able to refer to these photos and change their photo, right? So now I've placed two images for a man avatar and a woman avatar, and we can use these as a default photo for each of the cards, and then later for the actual classmates we can put in the different photos related to each one of them. So now we should place these images inside of our cards, right? So you can put any one of these to whether man or woman avatar, doesn't really matter, and then we will be able to place that for each one of them. So now let's get back to our stuinfo.html, and here is where we want to place our photo and also add some CSS styles for these. So now here I'm going to add a piece of code for loading the static files. So as you can see, I have at first loaded the static file, load the static, and then added the image tag related to our image, and then we've determined the source of the image, which is inside of the static folder, and then we've placed the woman avatar as a default photo for every one of these classmates. But if you want to have specific photos for each one of the classmates, you need to add, instead of your models.py, you need to add another class or another variable inside of your class, and inside of that you need to determine the photo related to each one of the members. So for example, let's get to our models right here inside of the class models, and then we should add photo models, and then here instead of the character field we need to add image, and then or we can write the name of the image as a character field and then add it right over here. But then we need to also write some other codes for our images and so on. So right now for just the image, for just a default image, let us try this code. So it's inside of the stuinfo.html. There we go. And right now we don't want to add any CSS files or CSS code inside of this file. So let's save this and run python manage.py run server. And for me it's Python 3. So now we have this. Let me refresh and let's get into this part. Let's see whether we have Mariana Jane. There seems to be a problem with this page. Let me try this for Michael Brown. Okay, still there seems to be a problem. By the way, here our woman avatar is not of the JPG format, so it's PNG. And I think the problem is because of this, because we had no PNG JPG for woman avatar, and probably that error happened for that part, that problem. So now let's refresh. There seems to be another problem too, so let's get back to where we were and let's try again. So now we can fix our code by just making some changes. First of all, we need to make sure we have all the two quotation marks right here. Also set the style for width of the image, because once you have the full image, it might be so big that it would fit all of the page and you wouldn't see everything. Also, you should place apostrophe over the name of the image, and there's nothing fancy about adding the image to your static files. You should care about all of these syntax inside of your HTML code here inside of the stuinfo. And once you save the code and you come over here, you'll be able to see that you have this avatar for Mariana Jane, and you will have this avatar also for men too. You can change this to right here. You can change this to, for example, man avatar, and this is JPG instead of PNG, and we're good to go. We need to, so we can get back to classmates, and now we can take a look at Brown. As you can see, we have an avatar for Michael Brown. So that's it. That's generally how we add the static files and images. You can also add JavaScript code CSS or any other static files. But most of the time, a static file folder is about the CSS, JavaScript, and images. So that's it for this tutorial, and in the next ones we're going to talk about other different parts of our making websites and different topics.